You're listening to the Essential WFDU HD1 Teaneck, the home of retro radio hits of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, plus unique public radio for the New York metro area. Streaming worldwide at WFDU.FM.
89.1.
All right, we're going to play this next song. This is, we're going to interview this guy at 8:25. He's calling in, James Scott Bullard. And this is Back to You.
Looking for some
That was James Scott Bullard. We'll be interviewing him around 8:30. He'll be calling in at 8:25. And that's not even one of the featured tracks on the CD. He has 3 listings here of what ones I guess they're trying to feature on the radio. But if you ask me, and the whole CD is excellent, but even though the one you just heard, and that's called Back to You, was not a featured track, that's my favorite. I think that track is excellent. There's a little Dickie Betts on there. It isn't Dickie Betts, but the guitar sounds like him. And, you know, it's funny, I was drawing a mental blank. I've heard this album about 7 times already. And every time I hear the guitar, I'm like, where do I know this guitar from? And I just said it to Ed, and he goes, Dickie Betts. I was like, there you go. I just couldn't make the connection for some reason. But I hope you stay tuned for his interview. It's a very good CD. It's James Scott Bullard. It's called Full Tilt Boogie. And it debuted April 28th. So he's on Wikipedia. You can find him online. He's got some songs on YouTube. Very good. We'll be playing some more of his music before the interview.
You're listening to the Essential WFDU HD1 Teaneck, the home of retro radio hits of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, plus unique public radio for the New York metro area. Streaming worldwide at WFDU.FM.
89.1.
Welcome back to the final hour of Let There Be Country. It's moving right along. Can't believe how fast it's going, folks. We have an interview at 8:25 with James Scott Bullard, exciting new artist. And here's another one of his songs.
Well, I got me a gal, you know I got some bad habits too. Yeah, I got me a gal, you know I got them bad habits too. That old gal don't love me, but man, my habits sure do. Well, she ain't no good, she's just a low-down snake in the grass. Hey, she ain't no good, she's just a low-down snake in the grass. Now she got to see a double through the bottom of a whiskey glass. Got an evil kind of love with a mean streak 10 miles per hour. Got that evil kind of loving with a mean streak 10 miles per hour. Hey, I'd rather friend the devil than to have that woman by my side. And I ain't gonna stick around while she treat me like she do. I ain't gonna stick around while she treat me like she do. I said I might be crazy, but mama, I ain't crazy about you. No, I ain't.
Yeah, another good song. James Scott Bullard off his debut CD, Full Tilt Boogie. Looking forward to talking to him later on. About another 20 minutes, so 25 minutes. As promised, James Scott Bullard has called in. Hello, James. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
How are you?
All right. How are you?
All right. We're glad you called in.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I got to say, this album came out on the 28th of April. It was released, right?
27th.
27th? Oh, okay. I got the complimentary CD here, and it has your featured tracks, Wicked Ways, Hey Hey Mama, Jesus Jailer, Texas.
Right.
But I got to tell you, my favorite one is the last one, Back to You. I love that song.
that turned out to be a lot of people's favorite, and it's my personal favorite because it's about my son.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's my personal favorite song on the record.
Nice.
Just for that reason alone. Now, as far as musically, I would be hard-pressed to pick a favorite.
And, that is my favorite song. I mean, I've played the CD about 7 times already. I'm really liking every song on here.
I appreciate it.
And the Back to You, it's got a little bit of Dickie Betts sound to the guitar.
It does, and that was kind of accidental. My guitar player, the band that I worked with in the studio, was my regional touring band. So we had, that song had been lived in for a while before it was recorded.
Oh, okay.
And that was just one of those things, one of those off the cuff moments where you play on the song in rehearsal, and that happens. And, it's kind of like one of those things where you look at each other and like, man, we got to remember that. Don't ever forget that we did that again.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't, because, like I said, that's my favorite song on the album, and I do like every single one you have on here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
And this is your debut CD, right?
This is, this was probably, this is probably my 9th CD, actually.
Oh, okay.
But now, as far as full-length album on Big Mavis, yes, this would be my first actual full-length debut on the Big Mavis label.
Well, you raised the bar high for the second one, I'll tell you that.
I know. And now I got to top that at some point.
There you go. I'm sure you will. Well, my co-host Ed Natal's here. You got any questions, Ed?
Hey, good morning. Yeah, I just wanted to mention the name of that CD is Full Tilt Boogie.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely.
And we were sampling it. We played a couple tracks today on today's show, and it's really good. And
thank you, man.
Yeah, looking forward to listening to the whole thing and checking it out. I was on your website earlier. That's jamesscottbullard.com. And the thing that jumped off at me was your quote there, "All my songs are about making bad decisions."
It's true. It's true.
That's something me and Ed know all about. We've been riding together for a long time, and we've been across the country and stuff, and we've made a few bad decisions over the years.
I feel like that's how I've always thought that's how you get to people. You're right about what if not, they'll see right through you.
Right.
And making bad decisions is something every one of us has done at some point.
Hey, that's all part of life and learning from your mistakes, right? Well, hopefully you learn from your mistakes.
If you don't, you write good songs about it.
That's right. I don't have that ability. You do. I just have memories.
Right. I've heard someone, you're either a songwriter or you have a good therapist. That's the only two ways.
I don't have either one.
You keep repeating the same stuff over and over.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you were born, where you're from, where you living now.
I was born and raised in South Carolina. Still live in South Carolina. I love the South. I like a place where I can walk out at night and look up and see the stars. My father. The strangest story about my parents was my father was a moonshiner. He was brought up in a very strange family. I wouldn't say strange, like, there weren't bodies under the house, or there may have been, I don't know. But to my knowledge, there weren't. And my mother came from like a Leave It to Beaver household.
Uh-huh.
So how they got together, no one knows. Like no one, even she doesn't understand it. And so I was always brought up around music, whether it was from like the people of the mountains, his family, like the people that he learned to play guitar from an old guy, a blues guy, who would jump the train to buy my grandfather's whiskey.
Wow.
And if he couldn't pay for it, if he had no money, actual money to pay for it, he would pay for it with a song or two. And so the kids would gather around. I think there were 7 kids in the family, and they would gather around and watch this guy, play.
Right.
And that's kind of where they picked up on it. And so they began to play, and every brother played something, and then or sang or did something like that. And I was always around music. I was always surrounded by it, whether it was people who actually made it or people who just loved it. My mom was a huge Rod Stewart fan when I was a kid, and I had a couple of older brothers, one in high school, and Kiss, Ted Nugent, Blue Oyster Cult, and those kind of things. I mean, like there was always something. But my dad was a hardcore Merle Haggard, Waylon and Willie fan. And if you didn't listen to that, then you weren't worth salt.
Well, Merle's my favorite.
Yeah, you didn't matter. So he kept trying to push that down my throat,
Yeah.
Of course, being young, growing up, and becoming a teenager, it becomes ridiculous because it's so close to home. You're like running as fast as you can from that. So
Yeah.
I decided I wanted to be like, in Ozzy Osbourne's band, or something.
Right.
So I started to do. That's where I gravitated, was towards metal and that kind of thing. And so that was my first, I guess, introduction into being in a band was a metal band, like doing that kind of stuff. And then he was right. He told me when I was younger, he was like, "You're going to come back to your roots. You will always come back to your roots." And sure enough.
Well, yeah, you're right. I was the same way. I start when I was young, like 9, 10 years old. I used to listen to country, and then when I got about 16, I went into rock and roll and heavy metal, Black Sabbath, and all that. And
Sure.
I eventually went right back to country.
You do, when you're old enough, and when if you're any kind of student of music, whether you're just a fan, a listener, or someone who actually makes music, you eventually realize that and I've said this before, but the blues and rock and roll and country are the exact same thing, except the tempo.
Right.
The difference is the tempo. It's everybody's version of Pain. It's everybody's version of Bad Religion. It's kind of everybody's version of that thing. It's like that. Mick Jagger sings it just a little different than Son House did, or say Merle Haggard sings it just a little different than Robert Johnson did, and so on and so on. It's the exact same music. It's just I think that's the best way to describe any kind of form of music since the blues, is that it's just the blues. Country is just the blues. Rock and roll is just the blues. It's just how it's told. It's a story. And every great artist has a chance to tell their story at some point. And we've been fortunate enough to have the Johnny Cashes and the Waylon James and those people to tell those stories.
Yeah, and they were very good at it.
They were. There was a thing about it. It's not just a story. It's also in how you deliver it. It's how you tell it. Some people, I've heard people sing other people's songs, and then I hear the original, and I believe the other guy.
Yeah.
I would believe the guy who didn't write it just because of the conviction.
Right.
Conviction has a lot to do with it. If he identified with something in that song, he was able to sell it better, I guess.
Well, I guess if going back to the blues, they said you really play the blues better if you went through the blues. It comes right from your heart.
That's true.
And you put the feeling right into the music.
It's true. There's something to be said about suffering when it comes to music. When it comes to making music, even classical, like Beethoven was deaf.
Right.
And you hear horror stories about how he was treated as a child, and of course I've heard stories about how or read how he was such a hateful person as he got to be an older man. Like, he was just a really mean guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, to be that brilliant, it had to come from somewhere. Because I had this discussion in Nashville a couple of weeks ago. There has to be a loose screw for anybody to want to get up onto a stage and say, "Hey, look at me." there really has to be something wrong with us all.
And drive around the country in a van, too.
Yeah.
There has to be something missing somewhere for you to go, you know what I think I want to do with my life? I don't want to be a doctor.
Yeah.
I want to go have people look at me, and, you know, it makes sense, though. You know, it makes sense. There has to be, I mean, you're right. The suffering, you know, that the blues was born in the fields, you know, of the South. I mean, like, you know, where there was so much pain and suffering going on, and they were singing gospel songs, which morphed into the blues.
Right.
You know, which morphed into rock and roll and country. I mean, like, it's all, again, it's one line. You could draw that line and never lift your pen off the paper. You know what I mean? Like, it.
Well, I guess for people that have a talent of singing and maybe writing music, if you have a painful past, it's more of an outlet, I would think, right?
Oh, it really is. It really is. Like, for me, I remember being a kid and just, you know, like, I have a 12-year-old son now who, without technology, would have no clue what to do. You know, like, for example, I could say, go outside, you know, and he looks at me like, and do what? You know, like, when I was a kid, you just had your imagination.
You couldn't keep me in the house, you know.
Right. So I remember, you know, being a kid and just having this vivid imagination, and I would write stories. I would just write these long, drawn-out stories.
Right.
You know, almost films. Like, literally just write out an entire, you picture this whole thing from beginning. And I think that's kind of where it started. Was that I wrote, like, one of my first songs when I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. And I mean, just, you know, I wish I could find it now to see how ridiculous it is, but I can't. I don't know where. I don't even know.
Who knows? It might be okay. You know.
You know what? That would be the one. It would be insane if that was actually the one great song.
Yeah. The one that got away.
The one that got away, right? But yes, I think the thing having come from such a strange background, you know, anybody, not just myself, but anybody who comes from any kind of background where there's a little bit of, you know, you have to have gone through some things, like,
right?
You know, for there to be that kind of creativity. I mean, there has to. Creativity is born out of necessity. I think the necessity to escape something,
right?
Which again, you know, I think feeds into the concept that, you know, most of your great artists have a you know, they lean toward addiction.
Yeah, it seems to be prevalent.
It is. It's an escape. It's just, you know, it's kind of what. And so songwriting, you kind of look at it the same way.
Right.
Like, you know, sure, it's an outlet. It's the getaway from something. And some guys, like poor Hank, rest his soul, you never figure out what you're running from. You never get old enough to figure out what you're running from. You know, but and some guys do. Some guys get lucky enough, and we are lucky enough to have seen Johnny Cash live a full life. And it could have killed him, you know, somewhere down the middle a couple of times.
Well, it almost did.
Yeah, really.
I mean, you know, he was a mess there for a while.
He was, and he really was. But then, you know, somehow he just gets it together, straightens it up, and we get to, you know, have, you know, his version of Hurt now, which is one of the most beautiful covers I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
And, you know, like, then again, you have the Hanks or you know, the Graham Parsons, the Jim Morrisons, the Janis Joplin, that list goes on forever.
Mm-hmm.
But people who didn't get to finish their story because, you know, whatever they were learning from caught up, you know.
Right.
To it, man. So I think you're right. I think that's very, very, you had quite a profound statement there, you know.
Oh, thank you.
There has to be some.
I come up with one every now and then.
Yeah, there has to be, you're right. There has to be some sort of pain, some sort of suffering, or something has to have happened for there to be a lean to go to songwriting.
Right.
You know, to want to do that.
Well, you know, you could probably, you know, if you have that talent and you have a lot of pain, like I said, it's probably a release, an outlet, and Who knows? Maybe talking, they say if you talk about it, you ease your pain. So maybe that's a way of doing it.
It is. I call it my cheap therapy.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot cheaper to have a pen and paper than it is to pay a therapist. Which now I'll tell you, there are plenty of women out there right now who will tell you that I need therapy bad, like
You too, huh?
We all have something in common.
Yeah.
But I still, I just, it's something you can turn, again, you kind of turn the bad on itself. You kind of turn it against itself and use it and make songs. And if people can listen to it and identify with it, then I've done what I'm supposed to do.
So, do you have plans for a tour?
I do. I did 3 weeks out in the Midwest, which I love dearly. The Midwest is a great place to tour. And so this summer there is plans. I'm hearing all kinds of states and cities thrown at me right now. There is no definitive itinerary yet, but I'm hearing left and right every other day something getting thrown at me. So,
well, I hope you come up here in the Northeast. We're right outside of New York City. We're in Jersey.
You know what? I've heard that. I've heard that one on the list. I've heard that one thrown at me, so I do know. Basically, what happens is all these things get thrown at me, and then I have two booking agents who meet in the middle and figure out how to get me from A to B.
And they'll post your tour, right, on your webpage?
Yes, you can go to my website, and it will be updated as soon as I know the date. It knows the date.
Great.
In fact, I've said this before. Sometimes I get online just to figure out what I'm doing today.
Right. Oh, that's what I'm doing today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I'd love to see you in concert. Like I said, I really like your CD a lot. And,
thanks, man.
I got to give this back to Redneck because he lent it to me. And
right.
Yeah.
We'll have to get your own copy.
Well, he's already harping on it because I've had it a few weeks. He's like, I ain't got my CD back, But
at least he likes it enough to want it back.
Well, I told him, I says, after this interview, I'll put it in your mailbox, at the studio here.
Yeah, right.
But he gave me another CD, and I kind of, he never got it back, so he likes to break my chops about that.
Well, we'll have to get your own. I'll talk to a manager. I'll talk to a manager and make sure you get one shipped out to you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and definitely let us know if you're coming up to the New York City area.
Without a doubt.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would love to go see you. I would make a point to go see you.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of good places here in Jersey. You don't have to just go into New York City either. There's a lot of clubs out here.
You know what? I tell you, we had this. My manager is actually born and raised in New Jersey. Now, if you asked me what part, I couldn't tell you.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah. So it was. She born at here's one thing she and I have in common is Eddie and the Cruisers.
Oh, okay.
So I have this dream that one day I'm going to remake that soundtrack.
Really?
Yeah, no, like literally, I'll play at least one or two songs off of it. Now, I don't know that that'll ever happen.
That'd be interesting.
We've talked about it, and because she's a Jersey girl, she's all for that.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting to see where she's from in Jersey.
Yeah, and I know she was born in Jersey, and then she lived in Hollywood for I think like 15 years, and then migrated to South Carolina because her husband's from this area.
Okay.
And kind of just started plucking the talent pool in this area, I guess, and started a label, started a management.
My cousin just retired, and he moved down to West Ashley by Somerville.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, he's sending me pictures back. He's loving it.
Yeah, it's wonderful, but the summers are almost unbearable.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I go to Texas a lot. I got friends out there and about the Dallas area, and July and August are brutal.
Oh, it's tough. It's tough. I'm telling you. Yeah. It's like being in the Sahara Desert. Except where I live, I'm surrounded by swamps. So it's like I'm in the desert. But
are you down by Petey?
I am.
Okay.
That's the area I'm in.
Well, when you said swamp,
Yeah. In fact, I'm probably a couple of hours from Simpsonville.
Okay. All right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so it's it gets pretty brutal down here when in the middle of summer. So we're dreading August. We're just kind of baiting our breath until August.
I know. Well, unfortunately, James, we're out of time. The show ends at 9.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you calling in. We're talking to James Scott Bullard. His debut CD came out the 27th of April, and it's a killer. He knocked this one right out of home run, right out of the park, folks. So it's called Full Tilt Boogie. And, Ed, you have the website?
Yeah, jamesscottbullard.com, and has all kinds of info on there. I saw your bio, and there's a section on there for the tour, so we're looking forward to that.
It does. It'll keep you updated on everything. And listen, I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Hey, we really appreciate it. We wish we had more time. We try to do this at 8:30, so people that are in different time zones don't have to get up too early. But unfortunately, It's the last half hour of our show. So, but hey, if you ever come up this way, I'd love to go see you, and I'll try to. Maybe if I can, I'll try to meet you at the concert so I can say hello to you in person.
Absolutely.
And you have an open invite anytime you want to come into the studio, bring your guitar or something. You're more than welcome.
You know what? That may very well be a planned stop on the next tour.
That would be great. We'd love to hear from you, and you know how to get in touch with me.
All right, brother. I appreciate it.
James, have a good Mother's Day.
You too.
Thanks
Take
a lot,
care.
James. Take care.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye.
James Scott Bullard. His CD is Full Tilt Boogie, and what a CD it is. I really like it. We'll be right back after the station break. All right, folks. Well, we had a great conversation there with James Scott Bullard.
Baby, pack up your things and be gone when I get home. I heard all about the ways you done me wrong, and I ain't the forgiving kind, so you best be moving on. 'Cause I got one gal, she went to Texas, 2 they went to jail, 3 or 4 found Jesus, and the rest can go straight to hell. Oh, me, oh, my. Jesus jail to Texas to rid yourself of me. Honey, you ain't the first one, you ain't gonna be the last. You might not be the worst one, but you damn sure ain't the best. And I'm all out of pity, so you best be moving fast. Oh, 'cause I got one gal, she went to Texas, 2 they went to jail, 3 or 4 found Jesus, and the rest can go straight to hell. Oh, me, oh, my. Jesus jail to Texas to rid yourself of me. Get your things together, do what I say do. You go and try your low-down ways on some other fool. I'm just about one more drink for being over you, all over you. 'Cause I got one gal, she went to Texas, 2 they went to jail, 3 or 4 found Jesus, and the rest yourself of